The darkness of space gave way to the glittering capital of the Morak Dominion. Commander Ju Park stood at the edge of a towering spire, her stealth suit blending perfectly with the shadows. The alien city sprawled below, its twisted architecture reaching toward 3 pale moons. Behind her, 4 figures waited in silence, her elite team, the last hope of humanity. "Remember," Ju whispered into her comm, "we're ghosts. We find the archives, we get the truth, we leave. No one sees us." Moonlight glinted off Minho's visor as he nodded. 3,000 years is a long time to wait for answers. The 5 humans moved like shadows across the rooftops of the alien city. Their boots made no sound, their breathing controlled through specialized filters. The technology they wore represented the pinnacle of human achievement: suits that bent light, masked heat signatures, and dampened sound. Technology developed across millennia of exile among the stars. They paused at a ventilation shaft. According to their intel, it led directly to the underground levels where the Morak kept their most precious historical records. "Daysum, you're up," Ju said. The team's tech specialist knelt and placed a small device against the metal grate. The lock mechanism clicked open without a sound. One by one, they slipped into the darkness, rappelling down the narrow shaft with practiced precision. The archives of the Morak Dominion stretched for kilometers beneath the capital. Row upon row of data crystals glowed with a soft blue light, each containing centuries of history. The air felt cold and stale. "We need to find records from 3,000 years ago," Ju said. "Look for anything about Earth or humans." The team split up, moving through the massive archive like ghosts. Their translators worked furiously, converting the alien script into readable text. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by the occasional whisper over comms. "Commander," Junho's voice crackled in her ear. "I think I found something." Jumu moved swiftly through the archive, finding Junho standing before a sealed chamber. Unlike the rest of the archive, this section was guarded by energy fields and locked behind reinforced doors. "Look at the markings." Junho pointed to symbols etched into the doorframe. "Our translator says it means the human threat, or something close to that." Jumu felt a chill that had nothing to do with the archive's temperature. "Can we get in?" Daysum studied the lock for long minutes. "Yes, but it will take time, and we might trigger alarms." "Do it," Ju ordered. "We didn't come all this way to turn back now." While Daysum worked on the lock, Ju kept watch. The archive seemed deserted, but experience had taught her that appearances could be deceptive. The Morak were an ancient race, masters of technology that still sometimes surprised humanity despite 3,000 years of advancement. "I'm in," Daysum finally announced. The heavy doors slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the chamber was different from the rest of the archive. Rather than data crystals, the walls were lined with actual physical records, books, scrolls, and tablets of some stone-like material. In the center stood a pedestal with a single crystal that glowed with a red light. "Why keep physical records?" Minho wondered aloud. "Because some things are too important to trust to networks that can be hacked," Ju answered. "Or some things too shameful." Daysum approached the central crystal carefully. "This seems to be the main record. I can interface with it, but I'll need time." "You have 10 minutes," Ju said. "The rest of you, check those physical records." The team worked quickly. Subin, their linguist, ran his scanner over the ancient tablets, his face growing darker with each translation. "Commander," he said quietly, "these are military reports, assessments of Earth's defenses from before the attack." Ju joined him, looking at the translated text on his scanner. The cold, clinical way the Morak had catalogued Earth's weaknesses made her stomach turn. They had studied humanity for decades before striking. "Commander," Daysum's urgent whisper cut through the silence. "I've accessed the crystal. It's a complete record of the decision to destroy Earth." The team gathered around as Daysum projected the translated contents into the air. Images formed, recordings of ancient Morag councils debating the fate of a blue planet. The humans advanced too quickly, a Morag elder stated in the recording. Their rate of technological development is unprecedented. In 2 centuries, they'd progressed from primitive flight to rudimentary space travel. Another spoke. Their biological adaptability makes them dangerous. Their minds solve problems in ways our scientists cannot predict. If we wait another century, a third warned, they may discover faster than light travel. If we wait too, they may rival our own technology. The danger is too great. Juwu watched in stunned silence as the Morag Council voted. The decision was not unanimous. There were voices of dissent, but the majority prevailed. Earth was deemed a preventative target. The attack was planned not out of hatred or resources or territory, but fear. They destroyed our world because they were scared of what we might become, Minho whispered. Juwu nodded slowly. They saw our potential and decided to crush it before it could bloom. The final recording showed the aftermath. The Morag congratulating themselves on eliminating the threat. They believed they had wiped out humanity entirely, unaware that small colonies had already been established on Mars and Europa. Colonies that would go into hiding, that would flee the solar system using experimental technology, that would spend 3 millennia rebuilding, remembering, and planning their return. Download everything, Juwu ordered. Every record, every decision, every name. Our people deserve to know the truth. As Dassam worked, an alarm suddenly blared. Red lights flashed throughout the archive. We've been detected, Subin shouted. Dassam status, Juwu demanded, drawing her weapon. 90% downloaded, Dassam replied, fingers flying over her interface. Just a few more seconds. Footsteps echoed in the distance, guards approaching fast. Done. Dassam pulled back her equipment. I got it all. Move out, Juwu ordered. Back to the extraction point. As they slipped from the chamber, Juwu took one last look at the ancient records that documented the death of her ancestral home. The truth was finally theirs. The Morag had feared human potential so much they committed genocide to prevent it. Now, 3,000 years later, their worst fears had come true. Humanity had returned, and they were everything the Morag had feared they would become. The alarms still blared through the archives as Juwu and her team raced toward their escape route. Red lights flashed, turning the once peaceful library into a maze of shifting shadows. The sound of heavy Morag security boots echoed from multiple directions. They're cutting us off, Minho reported, checking the tactical display on his wrist. Main exit is blocked. Juwu made a quick decision. Secondary route through the east wing. Move. The team sprinted through narrow aisles of data crystals, their stealth suits now focusing on speed rather than invisibility. As they rounded a corner into a wider chamber, Juwu raised her fist, the signal to stop. The team froze instantly. Ahead stood a Morag, taller than a human by nearly half a meter. With smooth gray skin and 4 arms, he wore the distinctive blue robes of the scientific caste. His large eyes widened at the sight of them. Juwu's weapon was up in an instant, targeting the center of the alien's chest. The Morag did not run or call for help. Instead, he raised all 4 hands slowly. "You are humans," he said in surprisingly good English. His voice had an odd musical quality. "After all this time, you survived. Move and you die," Juwu said coldly. The Morag slowly lowered 2 of his hands, keeping the other pair raised. "I am Taehyun, Chief Researcher of Historical Sciences. I can help you escape." Subin stepped forward, his translator device active. "It could be a trap. If I wanted to trap you, I would have activated the emergency lockdown protocol," Taehyun replied. "The security forces will be here in approximately 4 minutes. I know another way out." Juwu kept her weapon trained on him. "Why would you help us?" The Morag's large eyes blinked slowly. "Because I know what my people did to yours. I have studied the true history, not the lies they teach our children." His voice dropped lower. My ancestors committed an unforgivable crime. A distant explosion rocked the archive. The security forces were getting closer. We don't have time for this, Daesum urged. Ju made a quick decision. Lead the way. But understand, any hint of betrayal, and you won't live to regret it. Taehyun nodded and moved to a nearby wall. His elongated fingers tapped a complex pattern on what looked like solid stone. A hidden door slid open, revealing a narrow maintenance tunnel. This way, it leads to my private laboratory. The team followed, with Minho keeping his weapon trained on the Morek's back. The tunnel was cramped for the alien, who had to duck his head and fold in his secondary arms. After several minutes of twisting passages, they emerged into a large laboratory filled with strange equipment and glowing screens. We can talk safely here, Taehyun said, moving to a control panel. This room is shielded from surveillance. Why should we trust you? Ju demanded. Taehyun turned to face them. His fingers trembled slightly as he activated a display screen. Because I have been waiting for this day. Look. The screen lit up with images of Earth, beautiful landscapes, cities, people. Not destroyed Earth, but Earth as it had been before the attack. I have dedicated my life to studying your world, Taehyun explained. Not the propaganda our government spreads, but the truth. He touched the screen gently. Your species was magnificent, creative, resilient. You were not the threat they claimed. Then why did they destroy us? Subin asked. Fear, Taehyun said simply. Fear and arrogance. The Morak have ruled this sector of the galaxy for 50,000 years. We were comfortable in our superiority. Then we discovered Earth. His eyes seemed to grow sad. We had never seen a species advance so quickly. From simple tools to space travel in less than 10,000 years. It terrified our leaders. Ju stepped closer to the screen, watching images of a world she had never known except through old recordings. So they chose genocide. Yes, they lied to our people about the threat Earth posed, claimed humans were violent conquerors who would destroy us if given the chance. Taehyun's secondary hands clenched into fists. By the time the truth began to emerge, it was too late. Earth was gone. Not all of us, Minho said coldly. Yes, a miracle. Taehyun turned to face them fully. Now you have returned, and I know why you are here. Vengeance. The laboratory fell silent. Only the soft hum of equipment broke the tension. We came for justice, Ju corrected, and to ensure it never happens again. Taehyun moved to another console. His fingers flew over the controls. Then you will need this. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. Detailed schematics of the Morak defense systems, orbital platforms, shield generators, fleet positions. This is current tactical data, Daesum whispered, studying the display with wide eyes. How did you get this? I have held a high position for many years, Taehyun said. I have been gathering information, waiting. I always believed some humans must have survived. Ju circled the hologram, analyzing the defenses. Why? Why betray your own people? Taehyun was quiet for a moment. Because what they did was wrong. Because they continue to do wrong. The Morak have subjugated 12 other species since Earth's destruction. Always claiming defense, always striking first against any civilization that shows promise. He approached Ju, his tall frame bending slightly to meet her eyes. My species needs to face what we have done. Only then can we find redemption. Redemption. Minho laughed bitterly. 3,000 years too late. Perhaps, Taehyun agreed. But I must try. And you should know, your return has already been detected. Supreme Leader Doyun knows humans survive. He is preparing to finish what his ancestors started. Juwoo's blood ran cold. How long do we have? The new planet killer weapon will be ready in 15 days, Taehyun said. I can help you stop it. I can help you reach Doyun. The team exchanged glances. Trust was a luxury they couldn't afford, but neither could they ignore this opportunity. If you're lying, Ju said quietly, billions of your people will die. You understand that? Taehyun's large eyes didn't waver. If I am lying, we deserve what comes. But I am not. His elongated fingers trembled as he transferred additional data to Daesim's systems. Here is everything. Security codes, patrol schedules, the location of the weapon. Ju watched him carefully, searching for any sign of deception. She saw only determination and what appeared to be shame. My ancestors destroyed your world out of fear, Taehyun said softly. I will not let fear guide us again. The cycle must end. Through the laboratory windows, the 3 moons of the Morak homeworld cast pale light across the alien city. Somewhere in that sprawling metropolis, the fate of 2 civilizations would soon be decided. Get us out of here, Ju finally said. Then we'll talk about what comes next. Taehyun nodded. There is an underground transport system. I can take you to a safe location. He hesitated. Human Commander, may I ask your name? Ju considered for a moment. Park. Commander Ju Park. Commander Park, Taehyun repeated carefully. After 3,000 years, perhaps together we can right an ancient wrong. As they prepared to move, Ju couldn't help but wonder if some cycles were too deeply entrenched to break. The cycle of fear, of vengeance, of destruction. But for the first time since arriving on this alien world, she felt something unexpected. Hope. Taehyun's underground transport took them far from the capital's gleaming towers to a different world entirely. The lower levels of the Morak city stretched for kilometers beneath the surface, a maze of cramped corridors and dim lighting that housed millions. Stay close, Taehyun instructed as he led Ju through narrow passageways. The rest of her team had split up to avoid detection, each with separate rendezvous points. Only Daesim remained with her, recording everything through specialized lenses in her visor. Ju pulled her hood lower, concealing her human features. The genetic modifications her ancestors had developed over centuries allowed her team to pass as near Morak with minimal disguise, their skin tinted gray, their eyes enlarged by special contacts. But close inspection would reveal the truth. What happened here? Ju asked quietly as they passed rows of dilapidated housing units. The contrast with the gleaming upper city was stark. This is the true Morak Dominion, Taehyun replied bitterly. What tourists and allies never see. They paused at a viewing platform overlooking a vast factory floor. Below, hundreds of aliens with blue-tinged skin worked at assembly lines under the watchful eyes of Morak guards. The Azuri, Taehyun explained. Their homeworld was conquered 50 years ago. Now they build our ships, clean our cities, fight in our armies. Slaves, Daesim whispered. We call them protected citizens, Taehyun said, disgust evident in his voice, a prettier term for the same reality. As they continued through the lower levels, Ju saw more evidence of the Empire's cruelty. Species from a dozen worlds toiled under Morak's supervision. Some appeared nearly broken, moving with the slow shuffle of the hopeless. Others showed signs of resistance. Defiant glares, subtle acts of sabotage. It wasn't always like this, Taehyun said, as they entered an abandoned warehouse he used as a safe house. For thousands of years, the Morak were explorers, scientists, philosophers. We built wonders. We helped younger species. What changed? Ju asked. Taehyun's 4 hands moved in a complex gesture of regret. Ironically, Earth's destruction. The generation that destroyed your world believed they had saved ours. But without the perceived threat driving us forward, he trailed off. You stagnated, Daesim finished. Yes. Why innovate when you're already supreme? Why create when conquest is easier? Taehyun activated a holographic display showing the Morak Empire's expansion over 3 millennia. We became parasites, feeding off the creativity and labor of conquered worlds. Ju studied the display, noting how the Empire's territory had expanded dramatically in the last 1,000 years. And no one resists. Some try. They fail. Taehyun's large eyes blinked slowly. The last major rebellion was crushed 200 years ago. Supreme Leader Dohyun's grandmother ordered an entire planet sterilized as punishment. Dohyun, Ju repeated. Tell us about him. Taehyun's expression darkened. Seventh in the dynastic line. Direct descendant of High Commander Ravi, who ordered Earth's destruction. He rules through fear and propaganda. His image is everywhere. His word is law. As if summoned by the name, the warehouse's external screens lit up with an announcement. A Morag face appeared, distinguished by elaborate facial markings and cold, calculating eyes. Citizens of the glorious Dominion, the figure began in a deep, resonant voice. Today marks 3,000 years since our ancestors saved our civilization from the human threat. We honor their wisdom and sacrifice. The Dominion endures. The Dominion protects. Speak of the devil, Desam muttered. Ju watched the announcement carefully. There was something in Dohyun's eyes, not the confidence of an assured ruler, but the caution of someone harboring secrets. He knows we're here, she said suddenly. Not specifically us, but he knows humans survived. Taehyun nodded grimly. 3 weeks ago, one of our deep space monitoring posts detected unusual activity at the edge of our territory. The analysis confirmed technology with human design principles. Dohyun suppressed the information from the public, but ordered immediate action. What kind of action? Ju demanded. Instead of answering, Taehyun led them deeper into the warehouse, through hidden doors to a secure chamber filled with advanced equipment. One wall was covered with schematics for a massive weapon. The Harbinger, Taehyun said quietly. A planet killer far more advanced than the one used on Earth. It creates a cascading quantum disruption that spreads through a star system, destroying all planetary bodies within hours. Ju studied the plans, her military training allowing her to grasp the weapon's devastating potential. This would kill billions. That's the point, Taehyun replied. Dohyun has located your colony worlds, all 17 of them. The news hit Ju like a physical blow. Humanity had survived in hidden colonies scattered across several star systems, always staying mobile, always disguising their activities. For the Morag to have found all 17. How far along is construction? Desam asked, her voice tight with controlled fear. The main apparatus is complete. They're calibrating the targeting systems now. It will be operational within 2 weeks. Taehyun pulled up more detailed schematics. It's housed in a heavily fortified station orbiting our 5th planet. Juwoo's mind raced. The human fleet was powerful, but a direct assault against the heart of the Morag Dominion would result in massive casualties on both sides. They needed another option. There's something else you should see, Taehyun said, activating another display. This one showed population statistics across the empire. Look at the trend over the last 5 centuries. Ju examined the data. Your population is declining. Significantly. Not just population, innovation, art, scientific discovery, all declining. Taehyun's voice carried centuries of accumulated sadness. Without challenges, without the drive that competition brings, we've been dying a slow death. Many Morag don't even realize it. They believe the propaganda about our superiority. So why help us? Desam asked bluntly. Why betray your own kind? Taehyun was quiet for a long moment. Because I studied your history. Humans faced extinction and refused to die. You adapted, survived, evolved. In 3,000 years, you've accomplished more from the ashes than we have from our throne of power. He looked directly at Ju. The Morag need to change, or we will continue our decline until nothing remains but cruelty and fear. A quiet alert sounded from Desam's equipment. The team is at the rendezvous point, she reported. Ju nodded and turned back to Taehyun. If we're going to stop this weapon, we need to move fast. Can you get us access to Dohyun's inner circle? Possibly, Taehyun replied. I hold a high enough position to request an audience, but getting you inside would be extremely dangerous. Through the warehouse windows, the perpetual twilight of the lower city cast everything in shades of gray and blue. Somewhere above them, Supreme Leader Do-young was preparing to finish what his ancestor had started, the complete extinction of humanity. Danger doesn't concern me, Ju said firmly. 3,000 years ago, your people tried to wipe us out. They failed. We won't give them a second chance. Taehyun's expression was solemn as he bowed slightly in the Moric gesture of respect. Then tomorrow, we go to the heart of the empire. And may whatever gods exist have mercy on us all. Ju stood in the center of the abandoned mining facility that now served as their hidden base. The other 4 members of her team had gathered around a makeshift holographic projector. Tension filled the air as the blue light of the projector cast long shadows against the walls. The Morak have found all 17 of our colony worlds, Ju explained, her voice steadied despite the devastating news. They're building a weapon capable of destroying entire star systems. Silence fell over the room. For 3,000 years, humanity had hidden among the stars, rebuilding from near extinction. Now that fragile civilization faced annihilation once again. Hyunwoo, the team's weapons specialist, was the first to speak. Then our mission is clear. We use the data Taehyun provided to strike directly at their capital world. His scared face hardened. Swift vengeance is what they deserve. That would kill billions of civilians, Subin countered. Ordinary people who had nothing to do with Earth's destruction. Nothing to do with it. Hyunwoo laughed bitterly. They've benefited from our genocide for 3,000 years. They live in an empire built on our ashes. Minho, who had remained quiet until now, tapped commands into the projector. The image shifted to show the Moric fleet positions. Our ships could be in position within 3 days. A surprise attack could cripple their defenses before they realize what's happening. Ju studied the tactical display. The human fleet was smaller but more advanced. 3 millennia of desperate innovation had produced technologies the Moric couldn't match. But victory would come at a terrible cost. We need to contact Admiral Sungbo, Daesum suggested. This decision is bigger than just us. Ju nodded and activated the quantum communicator. Despite being light years away, the connection was instantaneous, one of humanity's greatest technological achievements. Admiral Sungbo's weathered face appeared above the projector. At 72, he was one of the oldest military leaders in human space, respected for both his tactical brilliance and his unwavering commitment to human survival. Commander Park, he greeted, his voice crackling slightly through the connection. Your team has done exceptional work. The intelligence you've gathered confirms our worst fears. Sir, we've confirmed the weapon's existence, Ju reported. But we've also made contact with a Morak defector who opposes his government's actions. There may be options beyond direct military confrontation. The Admiral's expression hardened. The Morak destroy our homeworld, Commander. They hunted us across the stars. Now they plan to finish what they started. We didn't cross 3,000 light years to negotiate. Ju took a deep breath. Sir, with respect, most modern Moric citizens don't know the truth about what happened to Earth. Their government has fed them propaganda for millennia. That changes nothing, the Admiral replied coldly. The fleet is already moving into position. We'll strike their capital world in 4 days. Your team is to sabotage their primary defense grid before the attack. After the communication ended, silence filled the room again. Ju stared at the space where the Admiral's image had been, her mind racing. He's right, Hyunwoo said finally. This is what we've prepared for our entire lives. What our ancestors prepared for across 30 centuries. Justice for Earth. Ju turned to look at her team. Is it justice to kill billions for the crimes of their ancestors? To become the very thing they feared, destroyers of worlds? What choice do we have? Minho asked quietly. If we don't stop them, they'll use the Harbinger weapon against our colonies. Humanity will end. Outside their hidden base, the sprawling lower city of the Morak capital continued its eternal twilight existence. Millions of ordinary citizens went about their lives, unaware that the fate of two civilizations hung in the balance. Jiwoo walked to the window, watching the distant figures move through the streets below. There has to be another way. Something that targets the leadership, stops the weapon, but spares innocent lives. The innocent. Hyunwoo's voice was bitter. Where was this concern for innocence when they destroyed Earth? When they killed billions of our people? That's exactly my point, Jiwoo replied, turning to face him. We remember Earth. We remember what it means to lose a homeworld. Would we inflict that same pain on others? Tisum, who had been analyzing the data from Taehyun, looked up suddenly. There might be another option. The Harbinger weapon requires Supreme Leader Do-hyun's direct authorization to fire. If we could somehow remove him from power. Assassination? Subin asked, looking uncomfortable. Not necessarily, Daesum continued. Taehyun mentioned growing dissatisfaction among the Morek scientific and cultural castes. If we could expose the truth about Earth, about the Empire's decline under Do-hyun's family. Jiwoo's mind raced with possibilities. A targeted strike against the leadership and the weapon, combined with a massive information release to the Morek public. You're suggesting revolution, Minho said, sounding skeptical. You think the Morek people would rise up against their leader just because we tell them to? Not because we tell them to, Jiwoo corrected. Because they learn the truth. That their empire was built on a lie. That their leaders are preparing to commit another genocide. Hyunwoo shook his head. It's too risky. Admiral Sungho has given us our orders. The fleet is already moving into position. And if we follow those orders, billions die, Jiwoo said firmly. Morek civilians, enslaved species, perhaps even humans, if we miscalculate, and they launch the Harbinger in response. The team fell silent, the weight of the decision heavy in the air. 3,000 years of human history had led to this moment. A choice between vengeance and something harder, something that required more courage. I didn't come all this way to become what they thought we were, Jiwoo said quietly. They destroyed Earth because they feared what humans might become. I won't prove them right. She turned to the tactical display, studying the layout of the Imperial Palace. We have 3 days before the fleet arrives. That's enough time to infiltrate the palace, disable the Harbinger's control systems, and broadcast the truth to the entire Morek population. And if it fails, Hyunwoo challenged. If they launch the weapon anyway. Jiwoo met his gaze steadily. Then the fleet will still be in position to strike, but at least we'll have tried another way. Slowly, one by one, the team nodded their agreement. Even Hyunwoo, after a long moment of internal struggle, gave a reluctant nod. We'll need Taehyun's help, Daesum said, already beginning to map out infiltration routes. And we'll need to contact the Admiral again, Minho added. He won't be happy about this change of plans. Jiwoo looked at each member of her team. These humans who carried the legacy of a destroyed Earth, who had trained their entire lives for this mission. 3,000 years ago, the Morek destroyed our world because they feared what we might become. Today, we show them exactly what humans have become, not destroyers, but seekers of justice who remember the value of mercy. Outside, the 3 moons of the Morek homeworld rose higher in the sky, casting their pale light over a civilization that stood at the precipice of dramatic change. The orbital defense station hung against the darkness of space, a massive structure of gleaming metal and pulsing energy fields. At its heart lay the Harbinger, a weapon designed to end humanity once and for all. Jiwoo and her team approached in a maintenance shuttle, their hearts pounding beneath stolen Morek worker uniforms. Final checks, Jiwoo whispered as the shuttle docked with the station. Their plan was simple but dangerous. Minho and Daesum would head to the main control room to upload the truth about Earth's destruction to the Empire-wide communication network. Subin would secure their escape route. Jiwoo, Hyunwoo, and Taehyun would disable the Harbinger itself. Remember, Taehyun said quietly, once we're inside, we have exactly 43 minutes before the security protocols reset. The docking clamps engaged with a heavy thud. For a moment, the team sat in silence. "Whatever happens today," Ju said, looking at each of them, "humanity survives." They moved through the station with practiced efficiency, using the security codes Taehyun had provided. Workers of various species passed them in the corridors, none giving the disguised humans a second glance. The oppressive atmosphere of the station was palpable. Armed guards stood at every junction, their weapons ready. "Security seems heavier than expected," Hanwoo observed as they passed yet another patrol. Taehyun's expression darkened. "Something's wrong. These aren't standard deployment patterns." They reached a junction where they needed to split up. Ju clasped forearms with Minho and Daesum. "See you at the extraction point." "Count on it," Minho replied with a tight smile. As Ju's group continued toward the weapon control center, a station-wide announcement echoed through the corridors. "Attention all personnel. Supreme Leader Do-yeon will be arriving to witness the Harbinger's activation test. Security protocols Alpha 9 are now in effect." Ju exchanged alarmed glances with her companions. "Activation test. That wasn't in the intelligence reports. They've accelerated the timeline." Taehyun whispered, his four hands making nervous gestures. "This changes everything." They quickened their pace, taking more risks with their cover. The weapon control center was located in the heart of the station, a massive chamber dominated by a towering energy core. As they approached the final security checkpoint, Ju sent an urgent message to the rest of her team through their subdermal communicators. "Plans changed. Weapon test imminent. Proceed with maximum speed." The guards at the checkpoint examined their credentials carefully. Ju held her breath, knowing their disguises wouldn't withstand close scrutiny. Just as the lead guard's eyes narrowed with suspicion, alarms blared throughout the station. "Intruder alert. Security breach in communication sector." Minho and Daesum had been discovered. The momentary distraction was all they needed. Hanwoo moved with lightning speed, disarming the lead guard while Ju dealt with the second. Taehyun sealed the doors behind them as they rushed into the weapon control center. Inside, a dozen Morek technicians looked up in shock. Before they could react, Ju and Hyunwoo had their weapons drawn. "Nobody moves, nobody gets hurt," Ju announced. "We're taking control of this facility." The technicians raised their hands, clearly unprepared for direct confrontation. Taehyun rushed to the main control console, his fingers flying over the interface. "I need 5 minutes to disable the targeting systems," he said urgently. Ju nodded and activated her communicator. "Minho, status." Static crackled before Minho's voice came through, punctuated by the sound of weapons fire. "We've uploaded about 60% of the data package. Heavy resistance. Daesum is wounded but stable. Hold position," Ju ordered. "We're working on the weapon now." Through the center's windows, Ju could see a sleek black shuttle approaching the station. Ornate markings decorated its hull. The personal transport of Supreme Leader Do-yeon. "Work faster," she told Taehyun. "We have company." The Morek scientist's hands moved in a blur across multiple interfaces. "The security protocols are more complex than I anticipated. Someone has upgraded them recently." Hyunwoo kept his weapon trained on the technicians while monitoring the external security feeds. "We've got multiple security teams converging on our position. 3 minutes at most." Ju made a quick decision. "New plan. Hyunwoo, set charges on the primary power couplings. We'll destroy the weapon directly." As Hyunwoo moved to comply, one of the Morek technicians spoke up, his voice trembling. "If you disrupt the power flow now, the quantum matrix will collapse. The resulting explosion will destroy the entire station." Ju looked to Taehyun for confirmation. He nodded grimly. "He's right. We'd be killing everyone on board, including ourselves." The communicator crackled again. "Ju." Minho's voice was urgent. "Data package complete. It's broadcasting now to every communication device in the Empire." A moment later, The large screens around the control center lit up with images of ancient Earth, followed by historical recordings of the Morag Council ordering its destruction. The truth, hidden for 3,000 years, was now visible to every Morag citizen. Before Ju could respond, the main doors to the control center exploded inward. Security forces poured through the smoke, followed by a tall figure with elaborate facial markings, Supreme Leader Doyan himself. "Humans," he spat, his voice filled with contempt. "After all this time, you still don't understand. Your existence is a threat to the natural order." Jumu raised her weapon, targeting the Morag leader. "The only threat here is your lies. Your people know the truth now." Doyan laughed, a cold sound devoid of humor. "You think truth matters. My ancestors were right to fear your kind. Look how far you've come, infiltrating the heart of our empire." He gestured to the technicians. "Initialize the weapon. Target the human colonial worlds." The technicians hesitated, looking between their leader and the screens still showing the truth about Earth's destruction. "Do it now," Do-hyun roared. One of the technicians moved toward the console. Hyunwoo raised his weapon, but Ju held up her hand, stopping him. This was the moment that would define humanity's return, whether they would repeat the cycle of destruction or break it. "You have a choice," Ju said to the technicians, lowering her weapon. "Continue a 3,000-year lie, or help create something better." The technicians' hands hovered over the console. Around the station, the broadcast continued to play. The full history of the Morag Empire's deception and decline. Suddenly, Taehyun stepped forward. "I am Taehyun, Chief Researcher of Historical Sciences, and I stand with humanity. Supreme Leader Dohyun and his ancestors have led our people down a path of fear and stagnation. This ends today." To Juwoo's surprise, the technicians moved away from the controls, some even standing beside Taehyun. Dohyun's face contorted with rage. "Traitors! I'll have you all executed." He reached for his own weapon, but before he could fire, the station shook violently. Alarms blared as a new voice came over the station's communication system. "This is Admiral Sungho of the human fleet. We have the station surrounded. Stand down and prepare to negotiate, or we will open fire." Chaos erupted in the control center. Security forces exchanged fire with Juwoo's team as Do-hyun shouted contradictory orders. Through it all, Taehyun worked frantically at the console, finally raising his hands in triumph. "It's done. The Harbinger is locked down. It cannot be activated without a complete reset." A security officer fired at Taehyun, the energy blast catching him in the shoulder. He fell back, wounded but alive. Juwoo fought her way to his side, as Hyunwoo provided covering fire. "Get to your positions," Juwoo ordered through her communicator, drawing her plasma rifle. "Remember Earth."